Why do I feel like something is missing but I can't name it? It's not depression. You're not in crisis. Life is fine. Actually, by most measures, it's pretty good. You have responsibilities, people who care about you, things to look forward to. You laugh sometimes. You make plans. You get through your days. And yet, underneath all of it, there's this quiet feeling, like something is off. Not dramatically, not enough to stop your life, not enough to explain to anyone, just enough to make everything feel slightly incomplete, like you're living a version of your life that's almost right, but not quite. And the strangest part? You can't name it. If someone sat down next to you right now and asked, "What's wrong?" you'd probably pause, look around, and say something like, "I don't know. Nothing, I guess. Everything's fine." Because nothing is obviously broken. No emergency, no disaster, nothing you can point to. But something feels absent, and that absence is strangely exhausting. So you start looking for answers. Maybe it's the job. If I just found work that felt more meaningful, I'd feel more alive. Maybe it's where you live. This city drains me. I need a change of scenery. Maybe it's the relationship. If things were better between us, I'd feel more settled. Maybe it's your body. If I worked out more, slept better, ate cleaner, and sometimes you actually make those changes. You get the new job, move to the new city, start the new routine. And for a while, it works. There's momentum, novelty, a reason to feel something again. You feel lighter, more present, more like yourself. And then, slowly, the feeling comes back. Not always loudly. Sometimes it's just a low hum in the background. A feeling you notice during long drives with no music on, late at night when the house gets quiet, while sitting in a full room of people, and still feeling strangely alone, while scrolling your phone for 20 minutes, without actually looking at anything. That quiet whisper underneath everything. Something isn't here. Here's what most people don't realize. That feeling isn't always telling you that something is missing from your life. Sometimes it's telling you that you've been missing from it. And the strange thing is, most people don't even notice this happening, because from the outside, their life still looks completely functional. They still go to work, still answer messages, still show up for birthdays, still laugh at jokes, still make plans for next month. Nothing looks broken. But inside, something feels strangely distant, like they're participating in their own life, without fully experiencing it. You see it in small moments. You walk into a coffee shop you've been to 100 times. You order the same drink, sit at the same table, open your phone, start scrolling, and then suddenly realize you don't remember the last 10 minutes. Not because you were distracted, but because you've spent so long running on autopilot, that being fully present has started to feel unfamiliar. Your body was there, but you weren't really there. Or this one. You're at dinner with people you actually like. The conversation is good. Everyone's laughing. The food is fine. But there's a part of you that feels like you're watching it, from slightly outside of yourself. Present physically, but not quite landed. Like there's a thin layer of glass between you and the moment you're in. You smile at the right times. You say the right things. You look like someone who's having a good evening. But something inside you is quietly somewhere else. Or you come home after a long day. You should be able to rest. But instead, you feel restless. Can't settle. You reach for your phone before you've even taken your shoes off. Flip between apps. Check things you just checked. Look for something without knowing what you're looking for. Not because you're bored, but because stillness has started to feel uncomfortable. Like if you stop moving, something will catch up to you. That's not a personality quirk. That's a nervous system that has learned to stay busy in order to avoid its own internal experience. When quiet becomes something to escape from, it's usually because the quiet holds feelings you haven't had space to process yet. So how does a person end up here? It doesn't happen all at once. It builds slowly. Maybe you grew up in a house where expressing your real feelings made things harder, not easier. So you learned to read the emotional temperature of a room before deciding how much of yourself to show. You learned which version of you was welcome and which version was better kept quiet. Maybe at school, being too much, too sensitive, too intense, too different, got you left out. So you learned to soften your edges, to take up less space, to be easier, more agreeable, less likely to make anyone uncomfortable. Maybe in relationships, you noticed that asking for things directly created tension. So you stopped asking directly and started hoping people would just notice. And when they didn't, you told yourself it was fine, even when it wasn't. None of these felt like losing yourself. They felt like adapting, like being mature, like knowing how to get along in the world. But your nervous system doesn't distinguish between adapting and shrinking. It just registers, it isn't fully safe to be myself here. And it adjusts, again, and again, and again, until one day, the adjusted version is the only version you know how to be. And here's what that costs you. Every time you swallow something real to keep the peace. Every time you say, "I'm fine," when you're not. Every time you agree with something you don't actually agree with. Every time you perform okayness for a room that didn't ask you to. A small withdrawal happens. Not dramatic, not obvious. Just a quiet pulling away from your own experience, one small moment at a time. Your nervous system has been working overtime, scanning emotional atmospheres, adjusting behavior before anyone gets uncomfortable, pre-editing your words before they leave your mouth, monitoring how you're coming across, running constant calculations about how much of yourself is appropriate to show right now. That's exhausting. Not in a way that shows on your face, in a way that shows up as that quiet, unnamed, background feeling of, "I am tired in a way I can't explain." And then you achieve something you worked toward, something that was supposed to matter. And in the moment you get it, you feel, okay, maybe briefly good, but not the relief you were expecting, not the arrival you were promised. So you think, maybe I just need more. Maybe the next thing will feel real, and you keep chasing, and the feeling keeps not arriving, because the things you're chasing are trying to fill a gap that isn't actually about achievement. It's about connection to yourself. The reason you can't name what's missing is because it isn't a thing. It's not a person. It's not a goal. It's not a different version of your circumstances. It's a relationship. The relationship you've slowly lost with yourself. Your actual preferences. Not the ones that make sense to have. The real ones. What genuinely excites you versus what you've convinced yourself should. What actually drains you versus what you pretend is fine. What you actually think versus what feels safe to say out loud. The version of you that had opinions before you learned to stay agreeable. The version of you that felt things fully before you learned to manage them. The version of you that wanted things clearly before you learned what was expected. That version didn't disappear. It just stopped getting invited into your life. This isn't something you fix with a better morning routine, or a new goal, or figuring out the right answer. It starts to shift when you get honest about what you actually want, not what sounds reasonable to want, about what genuinely drains you, even when it looks fine from the outside, about the things you keep almost saying and swallow at the last second, about the parts of yourself you stopped bringing into rooms because you weren't sure they'd be welcome. Start small. Notice the next time you say, "I'm fine," when you're not. Notice the next time you agree with something you don't actually agree with. Notice the next time you reach for your phone, the moment things get quiet. And instead of immediately filling that space, just pause for 1 second and ask, what am I actually feeling right now? Not what you should be feeling, not what makes sense to feel, just what's actually there. The feeling of something missing isn't proof that something is wrong with your life. It's proof that something inside you is still waiting to be acknowledged, still waiting to be expressed, still waiting to stop being managed, and finally be lived. And here's the thing about that waiting. It doesn't go away by being ignored. It gets louder. It finds you in quiet moments, in the middle of good days, in rooms full of people who care about you, not to punish you, not because something is broken, but because that part of you is still here, still trying to get your attention, still hoping that one day you'll stop long enough to listen. So the next time that quiet ache shows up, don't rush to fill it. Don't immediately reach for your phone. Don't immediately start solving. Just sit with it for a moment and ask yourself honestly, what part of me has been missing from my own life? The answer probably won't come all at once, but something inside you will recognize the question. And that recognition is the beginning of coming back to yourself. Because maybe the reason you can't name what's missing isn't because something is wrong. It's because what's missing isn't a thing. It's not a person. It's not a goal. It's not a future version of your life. It's a relationship, the one you've slowly drifted away from, with yourself. And when that connection fades, everything can look completely right on the outside, while still feeling quietly incomplete on the inside. Not because something is missing from your life, but because you've been missing from it. 19 and
Nothing
19.
was missing from your life. You were missing from it.